I'm your guy, I'm your man, Mr. Alton Henry. Today, I would like to talk to you of another underrated film. And the movie just actually came out recently, and I believe it's underrated because I think the meaning behind this film is kind of being overlooked or maybe not understood. And it's quite fascinating. This is David Fincher's The Killer, starring Michael Fassbender and Tilda Swinton. Sorry, so fighting off the sickness here. And it's a story. This is actually his first action film, but the more I kind of get into this review, it's more well, it's a deconstruction of the genre in a way, where you have a assassin who goes by many aliases, makes a mistake during a mission, and he is on the run, trying to clear his name while also trying to go after the people that are after him first before they get to him. And it's a fascinating approach of how David Fincher decides to take this film. It's it's your traditional revenge espionage kind of movie, but done in a different way. And since this is Fincher, this is more like a Fight Club version of that kind of a take of this story, where you have this protagonist who pretty much follows a complete code of how he lives his life, what he believes in, and how it's able to try to how it's able to get him through obstacles in his life, and he sticks to it no matter what. And the movie kind of takes place, starts off really him just waiting for his target, and he's slowly waiting for his target to kind of show up. This is all through perspective of that character. So everything you see is through that character's perspective. You don't see pretty much anything other around of what's going on surrounding the action. It's all through Michael Fassbender's perspective, and I think that's a thing. I think a lot of people might get turned off of by quite a few reasons. Is because you do see his perspective. You try to understand what he's thinking, what his thought process is, every single little detail. So there's plot elements in there where you learn through him. You don't know anything around of of story wise. You don't know really anything surrounding the bigger picture of what's going on. You just see everything from him and how he sees the situation. But I'm gonna tell you what, his character is kind of likable, but he's also an asshole. Just gotta put it out there. And the movie builds up to this moment where he makes a calculated but unfortunately a situation just turned into a an error, small little error, and he goes on the run. And the movie kind of slowly builds up to him trying to kind of clear his tracks and trying to seek out his employers to get revenge. There's a certain reason why he gets revenge, and it's really the core motivation as to why he's out doing the things that he's doing in this film. And it's not like a action pulse pounding like fuel ride. If I have to really be honest, there's probably really only two action scenes throughout the whole film. It's and I'm hesitant to really call this one an action scene, but I'm gonna kind of call it one. It's where he escapes the the scene where he messes up his shot early in the film, and it's done in a more quiet and kind of sleek kind of way. It feels more. It does feel more like David Fincher's more quieter movies for an action film. But when things do kind of pop up, it does get a bit noisy, especially during the second action scene, the fight scene. It's actually probably my favorite scene throughout the whole year in any film because it is intense, thrilling, like gripping. Like it's, I just love how David Fincher channels this guy's consciousness where when he messes up or something kind of chaotic happens, the camera kind of shakes around, and it kind of feels like a video game where something happens and chaotic and some sort of shock value occurs during a moment of the story. The camera would usually kind of shake around and kind of give you that anxiety, kind of make you feel what the character feels in that moment. And that's kind of what you kind of get in this sequence every time David Fincher decides to do that. He does it a few times into the movie, uh, where things kind of feel a little bit uneasy for the main character. And I can't remember what video game that does that, but it reminded me of a video game I can't remember. And I thought that was genius of how he chooses to do that. But like I said, there's really not much of an action scene. I do believe the weakest part of the film is probably maybe after the scene of that fight scene where things kind of slowly slow down a little bit more. But I also like the ending. I like the ending. And the reason why I liked it because it was a different take of how these movies would end. And I thought it was kind of genius the more I thought about it because if it followed a certain route, then I think the film would have been a little bit more less memorable. And I'm glad that David Fincher decided to do things differently with this kind of genre where he kind of played around of subverting expectations, I would say. And I love the way that he did it with this film because it really kind of make me think a little bit about, just who's really responsible um, for how the story chooses to unravel. Another aspect I found about unique about this film was that throughout the film, you have the killer carefully planning things in life, carefully planning his scenarios of how he chooses to do things, and then right in the moment things kind of go south, and you kind of have to improvise, and try to come up with stuff in the moment to handle it. That's kind of what happens throughout the whole film, where every time he tries to plan something, things don't work out, and that's kind of what I felt fascinated and really realistic. Because even in reality, everything you plan exactly does not, for whatever reason, doesn't fully plan out the way that you originally imagined. And I'm glad that David Fincher kind of did that because it brought the film to a level of reality for me, and I really enjoy that aspect of it. Um, Even now, I mean, you could plan so much of how you think you want to do something, but then in the moment it just doesn't pan out that way. You just gotta do what you can and just figure something else out in the moment to kind of make it work. And that's actually what's kind of funny about this movie is that the killer so calculated messes up and he has to kind of plan out throughout the whole situation to figure out how he could handle this a little bit more better. And that's fascinating. It's a fascinating film. I do think it's under I do think the rating on it is a bit well, I think everyone has a taste in film, I think this film is misinterpreted And I think that's what uh I think from what I'm seeing, a lot of people are having criticizing this film for is, it's boring. I found it fascinating. I really enjoyed this film. It's actually now one of my favorite David Fincher films. The Killer. Have you seen it? Comment below. Let me know if you have, and let me know what is your favorite underrated movie.